I'm not sure who needs to hear this, but as a driver, I'm usually left with my own thoughts during long distances. And this isn't a political channel by any means, but I started thinking about this upcoming election. Seeing how Biden isn't seeking a second term, I started thinking, for whatever reason, about who was the last vice president who then became president before Biden. Then I'm old enough to remember George H.W. Bush Sr. Then I noticed something interesting. Both Bush and Biden have something in common, right? They both were vice president, and they both, or Biden soon to be, will only serve one term as president. So I was like, okay, so then who was the next president that served as vice president before Bush? And I guess you could count Gerald Ford, who was the vice president to Nixon after, I think, Agnew resigned, which was Nixon's original vice president, but he resigned due to tax evasion, I think it was, and was replaced under the provision of the 25th Amendment by Ford. But he only served one term, losing out to Carter. Then you have Nixon himself, who was the vice president under Eisenhower. But you know how that turned out, right? Nixon resigned on his second term for the Watergate scandal, I believe, right? So then I start going down this rabbit hole of all the vice presidents who later became president and serving 2 full terms. So let's keep going. Then you have Lyndon B. Johnson, who became president after JFK was assassinated, but he only served 1 full term. Then you have Truman, who was the vice president of the FDR, and when he died in office, he became president and served only 1 full term. And some may remember, I think, was that upset victory against Dewey. So that leaves him out. Then there's Calvin Coolidge, who finished Harding's term after he died in office, but then served 1 full term of his own. Then there's Theodore Roosevelt, who became close to serving 2 full terms, finishing up McKinley's term after he was assassinated. But he could have counted when I think he ran again in 1912, but then he lost to Wilson. Chester A. Arthur, Andrew Johnson, Fillmore, Tyler, they all finished their predecessor's term after they died in office. Van Buren served 1 term after he served as Andrew Jackson's vice president. Then there was Thomas Jefferson, the 3rd president of the United States. He served as John Adams' vice president. Now, during this time, the vice president was the candidate who received the 2nd most electoral votes in the presidential election. So yes, this often resulted in a president and a vice president from opposite political parties running together. Now imagine how uncomfortable that might have been. I mean, imagine Trump being Biden's vice president, right? I mean, that would have been crazy. And that's probably how Jefferson felt before signing the 12th Amendment, which then now allows candidates to run on a joint ticket with the running mate of their choosing. And Jefferson served 2 full terms. So then this means that Thomas Jefferson is the last president to serve 2 full terms as president after becoming vice president? Unless I missed something. I mean, someone let me know, but this also means that there is no president. Then this also means that there's no vice president who later became president and served 2 full terms after the 12th Amendment was signed. I honestly don't even know what this even means. I just felt like I needed to tell someone. Do what you will with that information. Or let me know if I'm wrong. I don't know. Either way.